some downward facing dog variations, and recognizing that we're all very unique, and what feels good for us might not feel good for someone else. So we're gonna go through some adaptations and also be looking for alignment. So it might be helpful to have a chair nearby, some blocks or books, something to kind of add length to the arms, and a wall might also be helpful. So we'll get started. We'll go through all of those variations. To get started, we'll just warm up a little bit. So coming to a seated position, either on the floor, on a chair, however that feels comfortable for you. You might want to sit on a blanket or a block to lift those hips up higher than the knees and kind of get that easy pose going, or a way that feels comfortable for you to be in your body for a few moments. So beginning to arrive onto our mats, into our practice. It might be most supportive to be looking around the room, acknowledging where you are in the world. Maybe the eyes stay resting on one focal point to help us come into the present moment and to help ground. Maybe we're ready to soften the eyes or close the eyes. Maybe sensing into what points of the body make contact with the floor. Acknowledging that support beneath us, accepting the support. And when you're ready, beginning to dive in. Just noticing whatever there is to notice. Maybe slowing the breath down, taking a nice big full breath, really filling and expanding the lungs with the inhale. On the exhale, releasing fully, condensing back towards home. On this next inhale, finding a nice long spine, sitting up tall. On the exhale, releasing the head forward, stretching out the back of the neck and the upper back. We might sway the head side to side here if that feels good. Stretching out the neck in whatever way feels good for you. Maybe inhaling back up to center, releasing one ear to one shoulder. Releasing the breath fully on an inhale, coming up through center, nice tall spine. Exhaling, releasing to that second side. On your inhale, coming back up to center. From here, we'll come into cat and cow. So you're welcome to do this seated or on hands and knees. Either way, same movements. If we're on hands and knees, we're going to check for those shoulders right over the wrists, knees right under the hips. Starting with an inhale, nice long spine. On the exhale, curling the tailbone under, tilting the pelvis back, rounding into the spine. Looking back towards the knees or navel, whatever feels comfortable. On the inhale, lifting the tailbone up. Tilting the pelvis forward, arching into cow. On your exhaling, rounding into cat. Maybe a couple more each direction, warming up the spine, creating spinal mobility. Opening the pelvic body. All right, and then from here, we'll stretch the wrists back a bit, so sitting back, maybe onto the feet, maybe curling those toes under to create a stretch there if that doesn't feel correct today. Finding whatever does feel good. Just stretching the wrist, doing some wrist rolls in each direction a few times. We can take, when you're done with that, we can take one hand and gently Press the fingertips back towards the arm. Gently fold the fingertips under, stretching the top of the wrist. When you're ready, switching sides. You can also do this on the floor for a little more intensity if you'd like. Maybe shaking them out, whatever feels good there. From here, we're gonna come to stand, however that works best for you. Maybe you wanna take a little forward fold and a roll up, or grabbing onto the chair for support. I don't have a good wall to demonstrate downward facing dog on the wall. So imagine that my chair is a wall. And so we're gonna come to stand next to that wall or chair, whatever prop that you're using or support that you're using. And if we're using a wall, we're gonna put our hands onto the wall about shoulder height. And then from there, we begin walking the feet back to whatever degree feels safe and like a good stretch for us. So we're pressing into that wall and then just kind of walking back. Looking for that reach out through the crown of the head and down through the tail. So if you need to review mountain or Tadasana, that might be a good time. So we want this long spine, so the navel stays hugging the spine. And as we're walking the feet back, we're looking for that long spine. So we might be doing this with the top of the back of a chair. Again, walking those feet back, keeping that nice extension through the spine. Finding whatever degree works for us. We want those feet under the hips, so that feels nice and stable. And then taking several deep breaths here. Maybe it feels better to have our hands on the seat of the chair. A little deeper angle there. Knees are soft, bend as much as you like. You can wiggle around and move in whatever way feels good. Finding that big, full, slow breath, looking for that extension out through the crown of the head, down through the tailbone. And when you're ready to come out, we'll walk the feet forward using our support, coming all the way up to stand. So some of us might like to stay there. That's our down dog today, and that's beautiful. Another variation will be to come down to the floor, however works best for you. And then we'll come onto hands and knees. So we're going to be looking for, it's going to be pretty intense in some bodies, so listen to your body, do what works best for you. We're going to be looking for the hands to be spread wide, not like extremely stretched and rigid, but definitely spreading the fingers wide. And then the middle finger and pointer finger point towards the top of the mat-ish. It kind of, depends on what feels good. Looking for even weight in those hands. So notice if you're kind of resting all that weight into the wrist or the inside or the outside. See if we can find balance and keep that natural curve that's there at the base of the palm there, right above the wrist. There's that little curve. We don't want that to flatten. We want that curve to stay there. So we can grip into the fingertips, press into the webbing of the hands or the padding there, pressing in there, even into the fingertips, kind of bear clawing it to help bring some of that weight out. From here, we'll tuck the toes and then invite the tailbone to lift us. So we're not using our arms or, reaching up with that tailbone to lift us up into a triangle shape. And our legs might stay quite bent, and that is fine. That's beautiful. That's our downward facing dog. We're looking for a nice long spine. Ears, the arms are right next to the ears. Our gaze is back towards either the floor by our feet, or maybe even a little bit higher than that. You want that nice long spine and reach out through the crown. We can be walking the heels, kind of warming up the backs of the legs if that feels good. Eventually sinking those heels down towards the floor. Feeling free to wiggle and move in whatever way feels good. Taking several big, slow, full breaths. And again, if you're like, nope, that's not for me today, no problem. You always have the chair option or the wall. Sometimes I use my table, whatever's around. So we're using that in-breath to create lightness and buoyancy, almost like, I like to describe it like when you're in the pool and you fill up your lungs and it makes you float a little easier. And then if you blow all your out, it kind of makes you sink more. And so we're looking for that buoyancy, that lightness, that lift out through the tailbone. And then releasing down to the floor when you're ready, maybe sitting back into a child's pose if that works, or stretching in whatever way feels good. Taking several deep breaths there, maybe some shoulder rolls feel good, or shaking out the arms. Take a moment for yourself to just release that shape. And then when you're ready, I wanted to lastly offer the blocks as an option. Some people really like the blocks. For me, I haven't really, I don't know if it's because I have long arms or what, it just hasn't quite felt correct for me. But for some people, they love it. So this is an option. So we put our hands on the blocks. I tend to bring the base of my palm towards the edge of the block. Just helps me feel a little more stable. Same process, so tucking the toes, inviting the tailbone to lift us, pressing that chest back towards the thighs, lifting into your downward facing dog. Taking several deep, slow breaths. Releasing the knees down to the floor when you're ready. So that is downward facing dog.